Hi everyone, my name is Jenna Moorhead and I'm the Program Assistant with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. I have an incredible job because I get to lead all of the awesome outdoor programs for kids like you at our various conservation areas across the Niagara Peninsula watershed. We're here today at Balls Falls Conservation Area. This is one of 41 of our many conservation areas that you can explore with your families. Today, we are going to be going on an awesome hike full of adventure. And here at Balls Falls, we have an amazing natural history and a cultural history that goes back thousands of years. And that's because the land upon which I'm standing today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom still live, laugh, love, work, and play in our region today. So come on, follow me and we'll go on an adventure so you too can become nuts about nature. Now, before you go on any hiking adventure, it's always good to make sure that you're prepared for what's ahead. I like to first take a look at the weather before I leave the house. That way I know how to dress to impress for nature. If it's a cold and chilly day like it is today, lots of warm waterproof layers are essential. But if it's hot and sunny in the summertime, things like a baseball hat and some sunscreen will prepare you for the day. Now, I also like to make sure that I have a backpack with me, full of essentials that I need for my hike. I bring things like a reusable water bottle, a snack to keep myself energized, and a first aid kit or some bandages just in case I get hurt. As well, it's really important to think about the day ahead before you leave and hit the trails. I like to think about things like maybe, it's pretty slippery outside. Maybe the trails are too icy and dangerous. We should postpone our hike for another day that's safer. Or even, wow, it's really windy out. I've seen many a tree branch fall down on a windy day. Maybe let's pick a different day instead. All of these considerations are great for you to think about to make sure that you stay safe while you're out on the trails. So I'm all ready to go. Follow me and we'll hit the slope. So here we are beside the 20-mile creek. Now, water is so important for us here at Balls Falls, because without it, we wouldn't have half of our name. That's the falls part, in case you didn't clue in. That's because here at Balls Falls, we don't have just one, but two waterfalls on our property. And it's all because of the 20-mile creek behind me. Now, the 20-mile creek isn't given its name because it's 20 miles long. That's because it's about 20 miles from the Niagara River. In fact, the creek here flows for several kilometers, starting all the way out by Hamilton, and it travels its way over the land until it eventually falls over the escarpment here at Balls Falls. Now, you can probably see there's a lot of water flowing in our creek today. I wonder why that might be. Do you know? If you said because of all of the melting snow we've been having lately, then you are completely correct. Our creek here is entirely dependent on the amount of precipitation, or rain or snowfall, that falls from the sky. During the summer, if there's little to no rain, our creek can almost completely dry up. And we'll even have visitors to the park ask us to turn on the tap to get the falls going. But water explorers like you and I know that there is no tap here. It's just because if there's no rain, there's no water, and therefore no falls. So let's continue along the trail so you can see some of the nature in our forest. The forest here at Balls Falls is very special and exciting. This forest, along with most of the forests across the Niagara region, are part of the Carolinian Forest ecosystem. Now, this ecosystem is very rare in Canada because other than here in Niagara and a few other places in Ontario, it doesn't occur very often. Now, not only because of its rarity that makes it special, it's also incredibly important because this forest has the greatest biodiversity of any other forest ecosystem in Canada. Now, if you've learned the term biodiversity in school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that this is a new word discovery for you, that means that there are more different plants and more different animal species in this forest here than any other forest across the country. How cool is that? Now, further down the trail, I know a special little spot where some animals like to hang out. Follow me. This spot here is one of my favorite habitats along our trail. This little babbling brook is home to many amphibian species throughout the year. Any guess as to what amphibians you think I'm talking about? If you guessed frogs, you're totally right. Now, to most people, this brook is a little bit of a mystery, because if you look up the hill, it seems to be that the water just comes right out of the rocks. But how can that be? We're so used to seeing rivers and lakes that exist on top of the land. So where is this water coming from? Well, that's because this little brook is fed by something called groundwater. So much of our rain and melting snow ends up making its way through the soil. It'll then travel through sand and cracks and different caves underneath the ground until it eventually finds a spot to pop out and join our surface water like the 20-mile creek. Now, during the springtime, you'll see many of our amphibian species trying to make their homes and reproduce in this little brook. It flows a lot slower than our big, fast-flowing creek here, so this is a great spot to lay their eggs, and eventually those eggs will become tadpoles. So next time you're here at Balls Falls, take a look at our babbling brook and see if you can see some of our amphibian friends. This is one of my favorite places in the entirety of Balls Falls. That's because I'm a really big fan of geology. That's the study of rocks and minerals, if you didn't know. And behind me here, all of these rocks that are surrounding me and under my feet are actually holding a secret. This is a special habitat for one of my favorite species in the forest. It's another amphibian friend. Now, we know that amphibians require water in order to survive, but this one is different from the frog amphibians we were talking about before. Any guesses what it could be? I'll give you a clue. This amphibian has 4 legs and a tail. Think you know it? If you guessed salamanders, you are completely right. I love salamander species, and they like to hide underneath the rocks and the logs here in this section of the trail. We like to call it Salamander Alley. Now, right now, our little Sally friends are fast asleep. Do you know the word for animals that sleep in the wintertime? That's right, it's hibernate. Right now, they are sound asleep. But if you visit us in the spring or even in the summer, you could take a look underneath some of our rocks and logs and see if you can find one of our lovely little Sally friends. But remember, anytime you're looking for animals in nature, it's always important to just look with your eyes and not touch them with your hands. Salamanders in particular and other amphibians are definitely one of the species that you want to make sure you do not touch. That's because they breathe through their skin, not like through their noses like you and I do. So when we touch an amphibian with our hands that are covered in oil, and we know they're covered in oil, that's why you leave fingerprints on glass, it'll actually stop them from being able to breathe, and we would never want that. So next time you're out in the forest in the spring or the summer, maybe flip over a rock or a log and look with your eyes, see if you can find a salamander friend, and you too can respect and be kind to nature. Come on, let's continue along. So now that we've seen a few of the animal species that live along our trail, I like to stop here right along these rocks of the Niagara Escarpment to talk about some really cool plants. You'll see beside me here are 2 very interesting looking plants. We have some mosses, those are the fuzzy looking ones, and some lichens, those are the light green colored plants. Now they are some fantastic species because they don't actually require soil to grow in. I know, sounds crazy. We're so used to plants that we put in our garden, having to dig into the soil and plant them in there. But mosses and lichens are very special. They can grow right on the side of the rocks like you see here. They don't require any soil, just a little bit of moisture from the air, and they use all of the minerals and nutrients in the rock in order to survive. Moss is also really fuzzy and fun to touch. So when you come along here, Give it a poke and see for yourself. Oh, I hear something in the distance. Let's go ahead and check out what that was. This is a really exciting spot to stop along the trail because behind me you'll see the ruins of the woolen mill. Now, the first part of our name, Balls, comes from the Ball family, who were the first European settlers on this land. They built 3 different mills on this property, including the woolen mill that you see here. The mill is long gone, but you'll learn more about the Ball family and all of the things that they did from my friend Alicia in another video. But I also happen to know that this spot is a great place to look for some feathered friends. Any guess what those are? They're birds, of course. Now, further down the trail, I happen to hear the loud squawk of a red-tailed hawk. This is a great place to look for birds. And if you like feathered friends like I do, I always make sure to bring a pair of binoculars with me. Ooh, what's that up in that tree? Oh, so many exciting bird species to see in our parks. If you check out nature in the springtime, you might be able to get a glimpse of some of our migrating bird species coming back home to Canada to spend the summer here. There's so many different birds to see at all different times of year. Maybe with you and your family, pick a park or a trail that you like to explore and try and go in every different season. That way, you can see all the differences and the similarities in this special place that you love. Now, I hear something else further up ahead, a little bit louder than a bird. Any guess what it could be? You'll have to wait and find out. Follow me! See, I told you what was up the trail was bigger than a bird. Welcome to the Upper Falls. This is one of our 2 waterfalls here at Balls Falls Conservation Area. Now, this one is a little bit smaller than the lower falls, but it's much wider. The water flowing over our falls has been carving this land for thousands of years. Actually, it started right after the last ice age. And just kind of like how a woodworker uses their chisel to carve out a block of wood, the water flowing over the waterfall here is carving out the rock around it. With time, it's formed the entire valley that we've been walking alongside today. What's even cool is because we're standing on the Niagara Escarpment, over by the falls, you can see the layer of rocks that make up the escarpment. When you look from the top to the bottom, you are actually looking back in time. And the rocks down at the base of the falls are actually 420 million years old. They would have been formed around the same time as the dinosaurs. So let's head off our trail and wrap up what we've discovered today. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure today. I know I had fun, and I hope you did too. So let's recap all the amazing discoveries that we saw today. We started off by learning how to be prepared and stay safe while we're out on the trails. We got to see the mighty power of the 20-mile creek as it flowed over our upper falls and towards our lower falls. We got to discover some awesome amphibian friends that like to call our babbling brook home. And we also saw a secret sleeping spot for some salamanders. Later on, we saw the really awesome moss and lichens that were growing on the side of the rocks. And we checked out a great place to watch for some birds. All in all, it was a great day of discoveries. I would like you to join us at one of our many conservation areas. Bring your family and show them how you are nuts about nature too. If you stop by Balls Falls, come say hi and tell me all about the awesome animals and plants you discovered. Until next time, my friends, I'll see you later. And if you're in a tree, make sure there's a grown-up nearby. Toodaloo!
Ki